friends, welcome to the Kolkata Voice. Today we will give you special information related to India's huge 550 billion USD budget in 2024. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government presented to Parliament on Wednesday an annual budget of rupees 550 billion USD that's call for ramping up capital spending by 33% to spur economic growth and create jobs ahead of a general election this year. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said private investment was rising after the pandemic and the government should focus on driving growth. India's economy is projected to grow 7% in the fiscal year ending in the March. The government focus growth of 6 to 6.75% next year, but the government is struggling to generate enough jobs for its population of 1.4 billion people. The finance minister also said private investment were following in after the pandemic, which India's economy has rebounded from, and there was a need to focus on driving growth. She proposed rising capital spending by more than a third of rupees 10 trillion and said the government has identified 100 new projects for last mile connectivity. India has also planned 50 additional airport, heliports and airdromes, listing projects that are key to changing or creating more jobs in the nation of 1.4 billion people. Modi government budget also sought to leave more money in the hands of the people by rejigging tax rates including exemption income up to 7 lakh from tax versus the earlier threshold of rupees 5 lakh. While the measure would be means following 350 billion in revenue, the government eventually seek to phase out the regime that allow tax exemption and rebate on certain spending. The budget also comes as Modi takes the global stage with India's presidency of Group 20 nations as he pushed the ambition to turn the nation into the world's third largest economy before the end of the decade. The G20 presidency gives India a unique opportunity to strengthen the nation's role on global stage. India's defense strategy faced a budget conundrum as it grapples with potency versus pragmatism. The mother of all procurement, the medium multi-role combat aircraft program by Indian Air Force stumbled, securing only 36 Rafale jet out of Indian 126, flagging squadrons 10 to mere 30. Similar shortcomings echoes in Indian Army and Navy. Rising corner about defense allocation in the next fiscal year aimed independent election im- aimed impending elections and the need for welfare measures. India's ambition to become a global leader in defense technology faced a funding hurdle as noted by a parliamentary committee's recent report comparing India's research funding with that of developed nation. The committee underscored the limitation proposed by the current allocation. India is well positioned to maintain its growth movement into financial year 2025. Adding to the lift is the budget presentation in early February, which should emphasize a inclusive and prosperous policy push in the context of incremental and progressive step in the roadmap over next 20 plus years. In an election years, the government usually table the vote on account through an interim budget to seek approval for essential expenditure outlets. After the polls in April-May 2024, the incoming administration will present the regular budget around mid 24. Beside approval to keep office running. This interim edition can announce pro-demand and growth steps as demonstrated during previous election, for example in 2019. The Rural Development Ministry has sought 1.1 lakh crore for the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme for next fiscal, almost double 60,000 crore budget for the current fiscal year. Relatively strong work demand, wages hike and inflation could push an expenditure under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Development Guarantee Scheme in 2025. The government will likely allocate 88,000 crore for the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme in the interim budget for 2025 to be presented in February 1 as compared with 60,000 crore budget for this fiscal year. The government would allocate more should be demand in exceed its initial expectation under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Development Guarantee Scheme, which is a demand-driven program. Gold loan non-banking finance companies that are currently facing a liquidity crunch have argued for fiscal measure in upcoming Union Budget 2024 to infuse liquidity in the system and introduce a partial credit guarantee scheme to cover NBFC's onward lending to micro enterprise. The budget takes the lead once again to ramp up the victorious cycle of investment. Sitaraman said, "Thank you. We will bring all related update news later. Thank you for watching the Kolkata Voice."